Use code WALLA for 10% off all advanced GG products. Thank you. Since Bungie gave us a lot of information on how the range is going to work and how zoom is going to work, why not make a list of the best hand cannons to be using? This isn't a tier list because I'm not going to necessarily order them from worst to best, but I think we all know what the best hand cannon is right now. In my opinion, it's probably going to be the Rose, but since you can't get the Rose right now, and since other hand cannons are practically almost just as good as this gun, besides not having lightweight, I could make a list for those who want to use other hand cannons and want to know what's competitive. I also get asked a lot about the Nation of Beasts, whether I think it's good or not. It's not bad. It's very usable, and it has keep away on it, which is automatically easier to use, and it feels like it shoots very, very big bullets, aka it's hard to miss with the gun. But in my opinion, if the gun doesn't have slide shot, it's not as good as it could be. While keep away is nice, giving you 10 range, and you don't even have to slide, it's very usable, and it is technically competitive, but it's just not my favorite. But if you do want to craft this thing, I don't think you'd be let down. If you were wondering what I would put on it, this would be my exact roll. Keep away, explosive payload, accurized rounds, and instead of going with corkscrew, I'd probably go with fluted so I can get at least 60 handling. And then slap on a range masterwork, and you'd be good to go. This would probably feel really, really nice, and if you proc keep away, this would be the stats on it. So overall, not a bad hand cannon, and it's craftable this season, so it'd be that much easier to obtain. And a lot of these hand cannons that just don't have rangefinder aren't really gonna change. The Fatebringer is still a very, very good hand cannon. This would be my god roll, with opening shot, explosive payload, accurized rounds, and corkscrew rifling with a range masterwork, and of course an adept range mod. You're sitting at 81 range, you don't have to slide, you don't have to proc keep away, nothing. You just have 81 range with explosive payload. And if you proc opening shot on your first shot, you're gonna have 100 range and 100 aim assist for the first bullet. It's always been a really good hand cannon. The only problem now is other hand cannons came out that do it better and that have more airborne effectiveness, which is kind of important nowadays. But again, it's one of those hand cannons that's very easy to obtain as long as you can do the raid. You can just farm it over and over again, unlike some of these other hand cannons. Now, the Palindrome is one of those guns I don't know if I'd recommend using anymore. You could still use rangefinder after the rangefinder nerf. I think it still gives you some other benefits like accuracy bonuses and stuff, which is usable, but typically you'd want to go for some extra range if you can. And unfortunately for the Palindrome, there's no other perk that'd be worth using. Literally no other perk. High Impact Reserve sucks, Unrelenting sucks, Thrush sucks, and One for All is terrible. So that just leaves you with having to run rangefinder, and having increased zoom with no range benefits might not be a very good thing for a lot of people. The thing is though, the gun is still a beast. As you can see from the stats, it's no joke still, and it's very, very usable even if you're still rocking rangefinder. I don't think it'll be a terrible perk like I said. But just keep in mind, you don't have explosive payload and you have no other range perk besides Killing Wind to get you past the 80 range threshold. So if you still have a god roll and it feels okay with the extra zoom, even though you're not going to be getting any more extra range, then keep using it. It's still a very damn good hand cannon with some very nice stats. And plus it has 21 AE as well, which is an added bonus. The Exalted Truth is quite literally the Palindrome, but on crack. It has better stats than the Palindrome overall, but it has the same situation where rangefinder is basically the only good perk in this column besides Killing Wind. I don't really like Killing Wind all that much because I don't get to keep it all the time for the extra range, but the only reason I'm kind of okay with Encore is at least it lasts 7 seconds, so normally I would run a rangefinder with Encore. But assuming you don't want to run rangefinder anymore, Encore and Killing Wind could be an okay combo on this gun, and like I said, since it's basically the Palindrome but on crack, your stats are insane with 80 range, 73 handling, 66 stability, and 22 AE, one more than the Palindrome. It's a very, very damn good gun, and it'll still be viable even after the rangefinder changes, so don't worry, make sure you keep a god roll. I've been hating on the spare rations, and for good reason. It's not the greatest hand cannon ever, and at one point, it was the greatest hand cannon ever, so people were let down, including myself, when we saw the range stat is kind of terrible, unless you sacrifice other stats, like handling or stability. Now, to be fair, you don't really need stability, considering you have slide shot, so if you go with something like Hammerforged Rifling instead of Corkscrew, you can get some pretty solid range at 61, while proccing slide shot, giving you 81 range, every time you slide. So it's not terrible, and it's kind of similar to the Rose. But the difference being the Rose can sit at 73 range, and when you proc slide shot, it goes to 93 range while having more handling, while having more airborne effectiveness, and while having more aim assist. So the problem with spare rations is it's not the Rose. That's the only issue I have with it. It's not the biggest difference in the world, but it is better. So if you do have a God Roll Rose, you would definitely use that. But considering you can't get the Rose at the moment, and you want a hand cannon that feels very similar to the Rose, you could use the spare rations. Now, I don't know if this would be the best choice if the other opponent has a very high range hand cannon, but if you're a good player and you like the way it feels, it's not the worst gun ever. Me personally, as dumb as it sounds, I would probably still use it over the Nation of Beast, as I think it's a little better because you have slide shot, opening shot, and it just feels better overall. Not going to talk about the Rose because we just did. You already know my favorite hand cannon at the moment, since Rangefinder is going to be gone. Now, Austringer and Eyasluna is kind of weird because after not using Rangefinder, you kind of find yourself wondering, what the hell am I going to use? At the very least for Austringer, you have opening shot, which isn't a terrible hand cannon perk. I mean, I use it on my God Roll Rose and it feels amazing, but the stats on it honestly are kind of mediocre compared to the Palindrome or the Exalted Truth. You're sitting at 66 range with no other range perk besides opening shot, 74 stability, which is solid, but only 52 handling and 75 aim assist and 13 airborne effectiveness. Not all that great, but it is craftable, and you could go for maximum airborne effectiveness with Air Assault, Extended Mag, and Icarus Grip, but that still only puts you at 48 AE. Honestly, not worth it at all. So in my opinion, when Rangefinder gets nerfed, I would not use the Austringer anymore. My personal opinion. You know, even though I said I would use every hand cannon besides the Nation of Beasts, I think I would use Nation of Beasts over the Austringer. I'm not joking by that. As for the Eyasluna though, it is a little bit better because it has scope options instead of the barrel options. And you could also go for something like Kill Clip and Perpetual Motion, which isn't a terrible combo, but it's definitely not the best. But I think I would use this over the Nation of Beasts because at least it would feel really amazing at 84 stability, 59 handling, and 66 range really is not that great, but it's not the end of the world either. So it's an okay hand cannon, but definitely not the best on this list. Try to avoid this if you can. The DFA has the most range out of any gun in this list. At least it'll have the most range most of the time. If you proc opening shot and slide shot on the Rose, yes, you'll hit 100 range, but that's only for one shot, so it doesn't really count. For the DFA, as long as you have Fragile Focus proc, you'll be at 100 range if you have the right roll. Yes, 50 handling is not very pretty for me, but I know a lot of people don't really care too much, so this is extremely usable if you're trying to go for max range. I understand that time payload is not for everybody, and I hated on time payload for a really long time, and I still don't like it all that much, but it is a very good perk technically because you're flinching your opponents really hard, and it still gives you extra range because it's an explosive round. If you're wondering about Fragile Focus, Bungie fixed the perk so you can keep the extra 20 range until your shields are broken. So as long as you have over 70 HP, you will have the extra 20 range now. Not a bad perk anymore. So if you're going for absolute max range all the time, you could go with DFA. I know it sounds kind of weird though because no one would ever use this gun, but I'm telling you, it's actually not terrible anymore. And that's going to conclude the list. Those are my main hand cannons I would focus on. Try to stay away from Austringer and Eyasluna. They're going to probably fall off a lot more now that Rangefinder is not going to give it any more range. It's going to be lacking compared to the other hand cannons. I was going to include the Judgment in this list because it has slide shot and I thought that was kind of nice, but this hand cannon sucks. Don't use this hand cannon. And while making this video, I didn't realize how many damn hand cannons were in this game. It's kind of crazy how many there were. I opened so many tabs on my PC and was like, holy crap, I have to remove some because this is way too many. But I hope this was helpful. Maybe some of you guys are looking for some new hand cannons to use, or maybe you're just new to the game and don't know what hand cannons are good. Now you know. If you're looking for 120 RPM hand cannons, I'd recommend using the Round Robin. You can still get this hand cannon right now, and it's a very fun 120 RPM hand cannon, but this was mainly focusing on 140 RPM hand cannons because they typically need Rangefinder. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.